to Scoundrels, another Star Wars podcast. I am Frank Jans, alongside, let's run them down, Sean Sullivan, Kevin Smets, Brandon Hanna. We're all back and we're talking about the season 1 finale of Ahsoka, titled The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. And great title.
That was done so well, I can't tell if that was a bit or if you really slipped up. That was pretty good, Frank.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but we're here to talk about everything that happened in the finale episode, the final episode. And right now, before we go any further, I need initial thoughts, overall thoughts. Kevin, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, I haven't seen Sean in a long time, and if I saw him right now, I'd give him a hug.
What are you That's crazy.
Ezra and Hera.
That's crazy because Sean's been here every week giving his opinion.
I don't know what you're talking
the whole time.
Kevin's missed a lot of episodes, I guess.
I'm definitely not winning the attendance award this year.
Kevin, overall impressions of the episode? What'd you think? How'd you feel?
Love the series. Didn't like the finale. Didn't hate it. I don't think it. I'm not going to say it didn't stick the landing. What a rookie move! I'm still finishing my gummy bear here. I did think that there were good things about it, but my overall thoughts, and I've mentioned this before, I just thought that Thrawn, the characterization of Thrawn, was kind of a joke. He's supposed to be the most brilliant tactician, military guy, and I know it's fan fiction. Like, in my head, I was like, dude, I bet you the last episode he's going to make it back to the regular galaxy. He's going to have one Star Destroyer, be surrounded by all the Republic ships, and out of one Star Destroyer, he's going to get out of that pickle, and you're going to see why he was such a brilliant tactician. None of that happened, obviously. It kind of escaped out of the skin of his teeth. They did remedy it a little bit, like when he talks shit to Ahsoka over the intercom, basically saying, like, eat my dust, and takes off. That was pretty cool. But the rest, like, I just thought that, like, again, it's just because the good guys have to win, that, he just kept getting beat, like, all season. And that happened on Rebels, too. Like, and it was always like, oh, that's part of the plan. Oh, we lost a whole squadron of troopers. But Ben Balin ditched us. But that actually means we won the day. And, this time, like, and, losing TIE Fighter.
If you think about it, we're missing one Jedi now.
Right.
Yeah.
Brandon, how'd you feel about the episode?
I liked it overall. I guess I was expecting a little more Balin and Shin, so I was kind of disappointed by that. But I really enjoyed, like, Ezra making a new lightsaber and Sabine using the Force. I know, like, some people didn't love the way that was executed, but when she force pushed Ezra onto the Star Destroyer, I nearly leapt up out of my seat. I loved it. So, to each their own, but it just makes me wanting more. I'm really excited to see the story continue, and Anakin has got to stop hanging around Ahsoka. It's about time he started haunting Luke and said, Luke, get off your lazy butt and go do something. Stop, like, training little Yoda men and, like, building huts with robots. Where'd you get these robots that build huts, Luke? Like, come on. Anyways, like, yeah, go do something. And get Leia and Han to do something too. And Chewbacca.
Sean, talk to me. How about how well or not well you like this? I don't know where you stand, really. Where do you stand on this season finale of Ahsoka, Sean?
I mean, Frank, every week on this show, I've been pretty clear my stance on it. I think that there's an 8th episode problem, right? I think that Star Wars has an episode 8 problem. Look at it. Every one of these.
Jedi. Turn your mic up, by the way. You're kind of low.
Oh yeah, turn it up a little
hello.
bit.
How we doing? How's that?
There we go.
Cool. Every episode I feel like has an 8th episode problem, right? Or every series, has had an 8th episode problem where the finale's good, but it feels like we're just short enough story to complete it or to get a satisfying ending. Like, we're rushing the finale on all these shows. We get to episode 6, episode 7, and we're questioning how are they ever going to finish everything they've set up? Yeah. And partly because they're setting up for other things. And, like, I don't know, man. Maybe don't do that. Maybe we don't need to Avengers the thing out of everything, right? Maybe everything doesn't need a scene of Thor talking to Heimdall in a weird cavern pool while Cap and Tony are
That's called
splitting
the
logs.
water of sights, by the way.
Oh gosh, nerd.
And Sean, listen, come on. If Ahsoka had an episode 9, aren't you worried they'll do something like somehow Merrick has returned and then it's going to get all
Yeah, you know what?
wishy-washy?
Here's the thing: if Merrick returns, I'm okay with it. Right? We need to know more about Merrick. Who is he? There was
Guys,
the one.
everybody knows who Merrick is. It's Starkiller. Come on.
Right. Before we get really into the weeds of this episode, would just like to ask everyone out there, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so. Hit that subscribe button, really help us out. Hit like as well, and leave us a comment on what you thought of the Ahsoka season finale. Would really love to hear your thoughts, because I know we're gonna have a lot of different opinions amongst all of us today, and would like to include yours in our discussion. And then you can also follow us on all our socials. The app formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and what else, Brandon?
Threads. I tweeted. I threaded. Nobody tweets anymore, technically. Okay, but I threaded my immediate reaction to this week's finale on Threads.
On Threads, exclusive to Threads. It is
Exclusive
Threads
to
exclusive.
Threads. Five people, but one of those 5 people was Andres Cabrera. So,
well, that counts for a lot.
Future friend of the show, Andres Cabrera.
We also have a podcast feed. Yeah, we also have a podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Drop us a review over there. That would really help out the feed as well. And a couple announcements here. You might have seen it on our community tab on YouTube, but I have been talking about doing a virtual screening of Revenge of the Sith / Siege of Mandalore cut that I made along with Kevin's help back during the pandemic days, and can't really put that out on public, obviously on YouTube, but you can stream it within Discord. So if you want to join our Discord channel, I'm going to schedule a day to stream that in the channel, and it's again Siege of Mandalore arc from the last season of Clone Wars spliced into Revenge of the Sith in like chronological order of like when I think Kevin and I came up with like when stuff would happen during the movie. It's a pretty fun watch if you love, Revenge of the Sith and Siege of Mandalore. It's right up your alley, so consider clicking the link in our description for the Discord. And Brandon did a couple months ago. We thought this was like the most funny thing we could have done. Brandon, why don't you tell the folks out there what you did and what happened?
Yeah, like a few months ago, whatever it was, I got an email. I'm on the email subscription chain for Los Angeles Comic-Con. Ever since I went back in the day, I went to the Schmodown panel. I met future friend of the show, Janine the Machine there. It was a fun time. I met Tommy Wiseau. But
human being. Yeah.
I get these emails and they said, hey, if you want to potentially submit for a panel, this is how you do it. And I said, hey, shoot or shoot, man, right? So
texted us and we were like, yeah, dude, go ahead.
Why
look at our followers and be like, yeah, no thanks.
Why is everyone future friend of the show, Brandon?
Oh, well,
just in case.
I mean, you've been here every week, Sean, so you know that.
Yeah,
it's a bit that I do.
Yeah, okay.
He's just trying to catch you slipping, Brandon.
It's
that's all. But you
caught
it.
It's a catchphrase. He's trying
It's
to
my
get
catchphrase. Yeah, it's
going
to catch on.
At the Comic-Con.
But this morning, whenever it was, I got an email saying that we were accepted to have our panel at LA Comic-Con this year. It's going to be on either Saturday, December 2nd or Sunday, December 3rd. We don't know the details yet.
I hear it's at 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m.
in the parking lot. Yeah.
Hey, free t-shirt nonetheless.
Free t-shirt.
It'll be at the Los Angeles Convention Center in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, right next to the Crypto.com arena. Get your tickets now. So anyways, if you are in the area
right now, Mark Hamill will be one of the people that is not a guest.
We're gonna have to go through the phone book to find a Mark Hamill now, just in case.
There are
we didn't lie.
Listen, there are a few Star Wars people there,
Nathan,
like doing autographs and stuff. So, maybe we could just like drag one into the panel and
sure,
when they're not busy. But yeah, we will be having a panel talking about Star Wars.
Did you confirm with them that we'll absolutely do it?
I confirmed that we will do it.
Jeez.
They said that we will have the full details, I believe, in November, which is cutting it close.
That's if we don't hear from Ken Knapsack's lawyer, because it's the panel you named it was Why We Love Star Wars.
Listen.
So Ken Knapsack's going to text us.
You
any
know,
day now.
a good idea is a good idea. It got us in the door, did it not?
Got us in the door.
We just
And
need-
They probably think we're Ken Knapsack. They probably looked up Why We Love Star Wars and saw the book, top seller, and now they're expecting us to talk about his book.
Well, we could talk about it for sure.
We
but
could, I have the book.
I mean, yeah, I have the book.
Why don't we make it a panel on Ken Knapsack's book, Why We Love Star
Oh
Wars?
my gosh, that really just
We dissect every single chapter. I hope you guys got 5 hours on you.
The organizer comes up to Brandon like, wait, where's Ken Knapsack? Like, we thought this is from the author. No, but I have the book right here. I'm gonna
yeah. Come see the book live in person at LA Comic Con.
I have a live copy.
Also, before we get any further here, we're just gonna once
check
again
that out.
voice
The
our
tickets today.
voice our support for the SAG-AFTRA strike that's still going on. Hopefully, they get a deal sometime soon. Maybe we can get things moving. So these Star Wars projects, selfishly, I'm hoping that this can get resolved so we can get these projects
I'm hoping
up and moving.
actors get paid and feed their families. But
Yeah, that's what I
Frank, You're
want.
gonna get your Star Wars movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, no
Anyways,
los
all right.
dos.
All right, fine. Let's get into the episode finally, and we start off with I thought was some pretty cool theatrics or magic, if you will. Morgan
The
Elsbeth gets the gift of shadows from the Great Mothers. This was a really cool scene. The Blade of Talzin. Sean, how did this opening magic session set work out for you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Brandon,
Mm-hmm.
what do you got?
I thought it was
Too many words.
cool.
Okay, Kevin, what do you got?
I like
There we go. I liked it too. Moving on.
Lisa liked
All
it.
right.
the fastest episode ever.
We could-
No, you know
Right.
what? I thought it was pretty interesting. I like the callback to the Blade of Talzin. I thought it was weird that the samurai sword spun. Did y'all
I
notice
did
that?
notice that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
that's
actually.
a weird.
She had to be like, okay, just like yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird. But I don't know. It's pretty dope. It's good to see them finally using some Night Sister magic as opposed to red laser beams for some fucking reason.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the
I like
threads
that
of
we got a
force
little
or
bit of
whatever.
like a confirmation of sorts of like how a Night Sister kind of become, gets the gift of shadow and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool, Brandon.
Yeah, the Great Mothers, they probably looked like regular ladies a while ago, and then the more magic they got, the more they looked like whatever they got going on now. So that was pretty cool to see, and also just get like a little bit more of the Night Sister like lore, kind of. I feel like because like Ezra did make a comment saying that when Thrawn showed up, he like awoke them. They were like taking
Right.
a little nap.
Yeah, which was interesting.
Yeah. So
They were sleeping.
Sleeping. Kevin, how did this opening? Was this one of the parts you liked or didn't like? What's going on?
I liked it. I like that Star Wars is going into some more interesting stuff. And for people who don't like it, or like, oh, I'll keep the magic to Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, like, that there's Andor for you, and there's other shows. So for me, like introducing anything new, mythos to the Star Wars universe is cool. And I agree with Sean 100%. Like seeing the green mystic stuff from like the animation stuff was cool.
could you imagine if like Andor like saw some Night Sister magic?
Yeah, right.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah,
That would be pretty-
it feels like a different. They feel like they don't exist in the same universe when you think
A
about
little
it that
bit.
way.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, we get into this is a scene I really enjoy between Hu Yang and Ezra, and the creation of the light,
Yeah.
and him constructing a lightsaber, and the Caleb Doom drop and Kanan Jarrus, and we get more information about Ahsoka and Sabine. Kevin, was this scene welcome news for you, or was it like a little too late? Wish we would have tackled some of this stuff earlier. What were your thoughts on kind of this whole breakdown or this whole scene between all our characters here?
At first, like I remember in my note I wrote like, man, I feel like it should be a bigger deal when he finally like turns it on and make a big deal about it. But watching that scene again when I like rewatched it, like I really liked that moment between like just hearing about. Well, at first they kept calling him, not Caleb Doom, and I was like, hey, his name's supposed to be like Caleb Doom. But when they finally were getting around it, I just thought that it was cool. Then I think it's the emitter that's the same emitter, and
Yeah.
how he had a second one. Like that was just really moving and stuff like that. So I thought that was good, and like the moment when Sabine takes off, and he ignites his saber. I mean, I've said it on the other shows I'm on this week. Like this whole series, even though the finale didn't hit for me, everybody's so darn likable. Like my wife and I were joking, we call it the Ted Lasso of Star Wars, because like remember Ted Lasso, even the villains you liked, right? And we all love Balin and Shin and stuff like that. So with this moment, like especially with Dasha not knowing about Rebels, she comes in as like the layman, like the new, doesn't know anything about it, and she really fell in love with Hera, and she loved the dynamic between Ezra and Sabine and Hu Yang. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, Sean, what are your thoughts on kind of tying this back to Rebels and explaining things that happened off screen, if you will?
Yeah, so I love the lightsaber building part. I wish we would have had a little bit more intimacy with that, a little bit more time to sort of let that vamp up a little bit. It felt rushed. Not that I think we needed like a whole ton of time, but it just felt like, again, the 8th episode problem. It's crammed into an episode with so much other stuff that, hey, this is pretty interesting stuff here, right? Getting to know a little bit more of Kanan's backstory from Hu Yang, getting to know how Hu Yang is saving parts for spare lightsabers in case someone needs to rebuild one. Like, that's pretty neat. Makes me wonder if when Anakin loses his lightsaber in Attack of the Clones, does he then go back to Hu Yang to resource the parts for it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like the whole Hu Yang telling Sabine and Ahsoka's backstory. That felt weird. That felt out of place for me. Like, let that happen in a scene between them, so we could see their conversation with that instead of
Yeah, never tell Hu Yang your secrets, because he's gonna out-spill it.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that criticism too. Of I wish we could have actually known this a little bit earlier in the season. It makes sense. I understand, the trepidation of training someone and being wary of like their motives for wanting to take on training. And not to mention, I thought an interesting nugget there that they said, or Hu Yang said, that Ahsoka, her what's the word? Her potential that she saw in Sabine. So because we've always had this question of like, well, is Sabine Force sensitive enough? And they've been teasing up this whole idea of anyone can use the Force. And so obviously the cup scene earlier on in the season with Sabine. So I don't know. I like the scene overall. I really love the interaction between Hu Yang and Ezra. But I thought, it's interesting that we're just now that Hu Yang is gonna be like, hey, yeah, so here's the deal, and we had to have Ezra pry that out of Hu Yang. It couldn't have been something that Sabine and Ahsoka came together and we're like, hey, look, we got to iron some stuff out. So they made a choice to go about it that way, which I was like, okay. Brandon, how did you feel about this whole scene?
I mean, I really liked the like whole interaction of Ezra building his lightsaber and the banter he had with Hu Yang, where he's like, I know more than you, and he's like, no, you don't. And then he like the fact that he gets the spare part from Kanan's lightsaber, and it's also like the realization of like that's what he was looking for specifically. That's the way I took it, was like Ezra was combing through everything because he was actually looking for that part, and then Hu Yang's like, I know what you're looking for, it's right here. Okay. So I thought that was cool. And
I kind of got the impression that Ezra didn't know what he was looking for. Like that Ezra was like he knew he wanted something for the lightsaber, but it wasn't until Hu Yang was like, "Oh, you want this."
He'd know it when he'd see it, kind of thing.
Then Ezra would know it when he would see it, but Hu Yang's got that like instinctual, like, oh, based on what you're describing this. You want a thinner emitter. You want, a little bit of a handguard. You want whatever.
Yeah,
that was the impression I got. But not to say you're wrong. Just
I'll fight you right here, right now. Interesting.
No. Only love and kindness and support. And go, Brandon.
It reeks of Jedi. But no, I liked it. And I think Sean make a good point. That's kind of like maybe like the merging of the two ideas with what was going on with this scene. But I dug that. And Kevin mentioned him being referred to as Caleb. Hu Yang, I think, at least once calls him Caleb when he was talking about him. So that was cool.
Clever boy, that Caleb. I think he says something to that effect. So let's fast forward to, look, the T6 gets, Thrawn sends the TIE fighters, and Sabine does a maneuver and takes out the TIE fighters. I don't know. I really thought Sabine's demeanor through the whole start of this episode, or really the whole episode, was kind of a little off for me. I don't know. It was like almost unnecessarily serious, or too serious in a way. Like, there's serious stuff going on here in terms of like trying to get off this planet and stopping Thrawn and all that. But she like crash lands the T6, and then she's like walking past him. She's like, got him. Like, and just had like this face on her that was just like, and what of it? Like, all right, damn, I'm not gonna mess with you. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that.
Well, something sort of seemed to trigger her with the Ezra Huyang conversation that she was listening in on. I don't know if it was talking about the nature of what Huyang knew about the nature of a master and apprentice.
Oh, right.
So I think it's just an extension of that, playing through the future scenes and this sort of resolution. Then she has that conversation with Ahsoka. There's the resolution of their sort of, whatever happens, I'll be right by your side, or I'll be there for you. So I think it's kind of a resolution of that, and her coming to grips with where her place is in this with Ahsoka.
Also, I really did like that moment where Ahsoka is talking about, my master stood by my side through thick and thin, through everything. And like, obviously, if you've seen Clone Wars, your mind's going to go towards when she's getting expelled from the Jedi Order, and that whole ordeal when Anakin was on her side the entire time, even though everybody else was like, using her as the scapegoat for what had happened in those events. And so I think that's an instance of the show where it's like, it really rewards you if you've watched Clone Wars and know kind of like their backstory, because that moment, while it's said out loud, is important to stand by someone, through thick and thin, to support them, whatever they may be going through. That still has, resonance, but knowing where Ahsoka is actually coming from when she says that, I think is much more powerful. So I think that's probably one of the areas where you'd be right to say, oh, well, if you didn't watch Clone Wars, you're not gonna get the impact of that scene, which is understandable. So I really enjoyed that kind of interaction. But it's interesting how it does set up this trust theme throughout the episode. I felt like between Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, Sabine, and the Force, really, because I think that comes to a head towards the end of the episode. And then they're going to be heading off to take on Thrawn, which is kind of, I guess they were just waiting for Ezra to finish making his lightsaber before they were going to jet off, because is that, am I remembering that right?
Seemed that way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So now Thrawn, this is another Kevin. I'm sure you had a little exception with the scene with the turbo lasers firing down on Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine on the howlers, and that wasn't working for you.
Well, no, I'll just say I mentioned this before we went on air. I don't agree with many of campiest takes on the show, because he really didn't like it, and I liked the series overall. But he said one thing that really made me laugh. He was like, Thrawn goes out of his way to be like, I learned to never underestimate a Jedi. That happened once, and it'll never happen again. And he has a whole fleet of ships and TIE fighters, and they're like, all right, what are we going to do? There's Jedis headed our way. Send 2 TIE fighters. Which is like, come on, send everything. Like, yeah. So he gets duped there, and then he gets duped when I did like the line, though, like rain hellfire. He said something.
Yeah.
The hellfire line.
Rain hellfire on the Jedi.
Yeah.
I do
like how he's calm and collected throughout the whole thing. I like the demeanor. I just think that, and I said this on Sith Council yesterday. What do you think Vader from Empire Strikes Back would have done with Thrawn with so many of these failures? Like, Thrawn would come back and be like, well, we lost an entire division of stormtroopers, but it was a necessary loss. Vader would be like, no, I fucking choked out Captain Nita because he lost the Millennium Falcon. You just lost 2 of my expensive TIE fighters. Choke, you're done, next.
Well, so I do think there's something to be said about if he does send a whole fleet after them and loses the whole fleet, right? Like, that's another thing with underestimating the Jedi. So I actually like the way he played this. I thought it was really, because he wasn't trying to defeat them. He doesn't have to kill them, right? Mm-hmm. He just has to leave them stranded on the planet, and then they can't do anything. And ultimately, he thinks he won. And that's sort of what Thrawn's about, right? It's not about winning. It's about him thinking he's winning, right? And making us and making the people around him think he's winning and think he's the smartest man in the room, when really he's just like, oh man, I hope my blue makeup doesn't come off. They think I'm so interesting with my blue makeup and my red contact lenses, right? And ultimately, he's just a blue guy with red eyes, like, you know. But I loved the bombardment scene, because, yeah, we always ask, like, hey, they got a Star Destroyer. Why don't they just fucking
right?
You
Rain
know?
Hellfire, yeah.
Rain Hellfire.
You reminded
Right.
me, actually, you got to get my KOTOR reference in here. Remember in the game KOTOR, Frank, when wipe this pathetic planet from the face of the galaxy, and it's just the ships from orbit, but like just raining Hellfire down. Gave me Terrace vibes.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Definitely. So we get into this catacomb, I guess, right? It's called, or castle, witch castle, whatever.
House.
Monolith?
What is that?
I think Monolith.
Oh, Monolith? Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We have these night troopers meet our heroes down in the in the lobby, and this was after Morgan Elsbeth was like, yeah, Thrawn, these are the volunteers. They're ready to stay here for you. And Thrawn's like, no, this is for the Empire, which I think is an interesting distinction he's making there. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on this, because it seems like the idea to follow one man, do it for one man, is folly in his eyes. It's rather the idea of the Empire is more powerful than one person, i.e., the Emperor. And so this idea of the Empire, this idea of its power, is greater than just one man, wagging his finger saying, blow up that planet or take out this ship. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on why he wanted to make that distinction.
I'm not as familiar with the novels as my Jedi Way co-host Laura, but she thought it was a betrayal of Thrawn's character, because Thrawn, and Sean, you're nodding your head, so I'll let you take over for this, but everything about Thrawn was about protecting his people. The Empire was a means to justify the end. So him saying "Long live the Empire" felt like fan service, but not what she felt was more consistent with the novels.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. I had this conversation this weekend over a game of Dungeons and Dragons with a friend of the show, future friend of the show, former friend of the show, Dwayne Burke.
Did he beat you in Dungeons and Dragons? Is that why he's former? Is that
no? Just I don't know. Is he a friend? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out Brandon's codes, right? Future friend of the show, Dwayne Burke, and we were talking about that, how it feels like the Thrawn novels even sort of lost the plot on that, because the first Thrawn novel for new canon, he like sends a fleet off to the Chiss Ascendancy, and it like sets up all this stuff about the Chiss Ascendancy, and then it kind of just gets lost, and I don't see how we're ever going to connect back to that with the current trajectory of where this is going. And it wouldn't make any sense for them to connect it back, because if they were to, it would fuck up the whole sequel trilogy. Like you'd get to this point where like, what does this mean, right? How do you demilitarize when there's this other alien empire out there that's being built up by, So yeah, it is a little bit of a betrayal of Thrawn's character, but I don't think that that's this show doing that. I think that they've already begun to do that throughout new canon. Ultimate result being the same, that it's kind of this weird Thrawn line that Timothy Zahn wrote into the new character for new canon, and then they're just kind of like, forget about it, right? And he's an Empire loyalist to the end all of a sudden, right? Like, it feels weird.
He's been a Grand Admiral for a long time at this point. Maybe just like over the years, he's just become like more indoctrinated and more accepting of the fact that like, this is my life now, and I care about the Empire and the security of the whole galaxy, not just the Chiss Ascendancy. That's the way I took
Empire.
Right. So again, we have Ezra. He's got a lightsaber now. Sabine has a lightsaber. Ahsoka with her lightsabers, and they're. I will admit, them just kind of staying still and swinging their lightsabers, blocking blaster was,
Felt
they
weird.
did that. They did that. It definitely lacked some energy, but I'm like, I don't know how, like...
Well, I think they were looking for that. I've noticed they do this sometimes in these newer shows where they're looking for that hero shot. And that was the hero shot, right? Or three heroes all with their lightsabers in their respective poses.
Yeah, it was when it flashed up on screen, I was like, oh snap, this is cool. And then I'm like, okay, cool.
I think you're muted, Kevin.
Yeah, or he's just...
I can't hear
Talking to,
Kevin.
He's totally muted right now. Yeah.
We could be talking to...
It's been a long 3 days.
There he is.
I showed my wife Mandalorian season 2, the Ahsoka episode, and we really like that stuff in the fog where she's in there and out and coming and cutting across someone and like disappearing is like so cool. And I thought that they were missing a lot of that like cool dynamic. I thought the duel was fine. I'm gonna jump ahead real quick. The duel I thought was good. I'm not gonna agree with everybody saying that was clunky, but I thought all of the scenes with this like with the McClunky. I thought all the scenes with the Jedi, like with Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka making their way through the temple thing, could have been way more stylish and like low light with fog or like, you know what I mean? Like, especially when you get to the zombies part. But it was just very vanilla, and it was, I think, a product of the volume, probably. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that, I mean, the lighting just felt more like and I think it's by design. They weren't trying to make it too scary. Right, so it felt like a vanilla Marvel series or a Marvel movie, and not. And this can get me hate in the comments, but I don't care. Zack Snyder knows how to craft a scene as far as maybe not storytelling for everybody's taste, but visually, like the fight of Superman and Batman v Superman is freaking beautiful. It's like a moving art, and so I wish that they took a little more chances with that, and they didn't really do that. And I agree, that wide shot, it reminds me of in my Revan anime, I have Machinima, a scene of Revan and Malik doing this, and it's just CG. It's animation from 2003, and it's kind of silly, but it's in there because that's what we had to work with. Right. And this shot, I always laugh at it, like, look at these bozos, they're doing that. And it's like what we got here with like, and they have so many Hollywood things at their disposal.
You know, I think. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Oh no, after you, Brando.
Oh, thank you very much. I was just gonna say that I think that lightsabers deflecting blaster fire has always looked bad. Like, that's just my opinion. I've always thought it's looked weird. Like, and like especially like if you go back and watch the prequels, watch like some of those background characters at the Battle of Geonosis. It's just like those are people who have never acted a day in their life trying to fight CGI battle droids.
You know who did it well? Mark Hamill in Return of the Jedi off the scooter bike. That was dope. That they peaked then.
Even like, you know, like when Ahsoka during Order 66, it's like there's only so long you could do that before it becomes visually boring. It's like, all right, we get it. She's like deflecting a bunch of blaster fire, and Anakin trained her to do it. Cool, but it's like, all right, there's a lot of blaster fire going on.
That's a particular issue with the Battlefront games because the character model will just move to deflect the like whenever you get shot, the model will just deflect them. And then it like lowers your stamina bar or whatever, which it that kind of like exemplifies the issue of like you could just have Jedi standing there and blocking blaster bolts for as long as you fucking want, and that's what we've established through these, you know, Star Wars mediums. And I don't know, I agree, it's boring. I think when they begin moving up the tower, and when the stormtroopers come back, that's interesting to me. I did like that dynamic, the action there. I agree with Kevin. I did think it was missing something, and Kevin, you hit it right on the head. It needed like a fog or a mist or like low like threads of Night Sister magic moving through there or something. Better music cue. It was missing something, but I thought it was really well done, and I like the dynamic between the three of them changing places on the stairs, the hallway, Sabine slashing the control panel. I liked a lot of that. I just I thought it was missing something.
Yeah, and you know what? I also thought, I was like, you know, when they were all three in the lobby there and they're all getting fired on by, I don't know, what do you think? It's like 25 troopers or something like that. Yeah. I'm like, you know, once upon a time, a couple of Jedi found themselves in a room with like 25, 30 clone troopers firing on them, and they didn't make it out alive. No. I was like, okay. And, you know, I'm like, hey, it's Star Wars. What are you gonna do? They're moving up the stairs. It's these night troopers have been revived by the Great Mothers, which was a pretty cool chant. And it was a cool scene.
I wrote the chant down so I can say it.
Oh, did you? What do you got?
Klaatu, Verada, Nikto.
Let's see. Here it is. It is show notes. Oh, I lost it. It's no longer on my notes. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Klaatu, Verada, Nikto.
Well, I have some more thoughts if Kevin can't.
Wait,
pull that
you
up.
know what? I took a picture of the screen. Hold on. Here
You
we
took a picture of your notes?
No, I took a picture of the screen
Of the
before I
TV
put it on
screen.
my notes. Lene Vedi Nalim Kareem. Lene Vedi Nalim Kareem.
All right,
Bring
Kalima.
back the dead. You're right. I did like the interplay, though, the interchange between Ezra and Sabine, and it made my wife laugh too. Like when he was being held, and then she was like trying to aim, and he's like, "No, not yet." Like that. They did really capture the Ezra Sabine relationship great, and which is just the more maddening that they're again now apart.
Yeah,
Like what's season 2 going to
true.
be? All about them trying to get to find Ahsoka now, and then at the end of that, it's just like you can just keep.
Yeah,
swapping.
it'll be 8 episodes of vamping of them getting off the planet, which just like this has been 8 episodes of vamping of them finally reuniting. Same thing next season, right?
Yeah.
And that's my problem with the way they've shot the way they've done these series. It's like, granted, I think the last season of Mandalorian did it differently because we kind of got right to the meat really quick.
That's true.
But for the most part, these series have been like, all right, here we're ending up with Thrawn and a confrontation between all this. We're gonna vamp for 6 episodes, and then the last 2 episodes we gotta cram it all in.
Yeah.
We don't. I'm sick of that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's fair.
Go
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Brendan. Yeah.
Sorry. No, but I have a positive and a negative to say before we move on. I did think a nice thing to say about that scene with the blaster deflection and all that is that you can like see they took time to like sprinkle in like the level of experience with each one of them. Like Ahsoka was like doing it like it was nothing. Ezra was like doing like a clean like pew, pew, deflecting all of them, and they were both deflecting the blasters back at the troopers. But Sabine
was just like this.
she got like shot in the helmet like right away. Like she would have died if she didn't have the helmet on. And then like,
but it's Star Wars now. You can get stabbed and live, and get shot in the head.
and she's like deflecting the blasters, but it's all like going to like the ground and stuff. So like I appreciated that attention to detail. I thought that was cool. And my one complaint is that the lightsabers for most of that sequence were like super short for Ezra and Sabine. I feel like they like used like these short stunt lightsabers, and then they just forgot to make them longer in post. You know,
I did notice it about Ezra's. I thought I was like, why does this look a little?
I'm like, that looks short. And I know they use the shorter ones because it's.
Are you guys complaining about Ezra's size, huh?
Yeah.
Aren't you a little short to be a lightsaber? Yeah. So
yeah, I know they use shorter ones for the stunts because it's easier to do stunts that way, but I feel like they just forgot to extend it in post or something.
Yeah. All right. So let's.
Weird.
I want to go to the scene between Thrawn and Morgan Elsbeth, and Thrawn's like, "Yeah, they're moving a little too quickly through my guys, so you're gonna do what's required, right?" And she's like, or he's like, "For the Empire." He walks off, and the Great Mothers walk off, and she's just like, "I can't believe I'm gonna be stuck here on this planet." And then she whispers, "For Dathomir," and I was like, "Okay, I think that's supposed to be a little bit of a seed for something to go down in season 2 between Thrawn and the Night Sisters. Now that they're in the known galaxy of Star Wars,
They're headed towards.
Yeah, Splitsville, right, Kevin?
Yeah, Splitsville. And Thrawn's the mayor.
Thrawn's the mayor.
Sorry.
They could hang out with my parents.
Oh.
It's got dark.
Damage.
Oh my god.
Did anybody else pick up on that and think of, hey, what's going on here between Thrawn and the Night Sisters?
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to the Shin, or not the Shin, the Morgan line, because I was waiting until we got to this point to talk about this. When we see her make her Night Sister oath, and they're like, "Are you willing to give up your life and your loyalty on all this stuff?" And there's a little bit of a look of hesitation when they ask her that. And I think that this is a sign of that defiance in her character, where he says, you know, for the Empire, and she's like, no, fuck that, for Dathomir. Like, I'm doing this for my people, not for you, you know. And I think ultimately she would rather see the mothers get off the planet than herself get off the planet, right? Because that's her goal. Her goal is to it seems, is to rebuild the Night Sisters and use the Empire as a tool to do that. Yeah, I think we'll see that split, because I don't think Thrawn. Remember, Thrawn says he doesn't want to. If we're characterizing Thrawn properly, and he's saying he doesn't want to see Jedi Force users take advantage of him anymore. Yeah. I don't think he's going to let the Night Mothers, whether or not he has a say in the matter. But I think that he is expecting to double cross the Night Mothers as much as they're expecting to double cross him.
Yeah, because like I think he's only going to use them to his benefit as much as he can, and then toss them aside the way he did Morgan Elsbeth, right? That's just a sign of things to come. I'm going to use you until you're worth nothing to me. And I think, you know, we can talk about that. What they put on the ship is probably a bunch of dead Night Sisters waiting to be resurrected on Dathomir. I think, you know, we kind of all suspect that, but that's like a really like Thrawn's going to go up against a dead army on Dathomir. Maybe, I don't know. Did you have anything else, Brandon, or did I?
No.
No. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I just thought that was really interesting, and then we get to this showdown with Elsbeth and Ahsoka, and I think I just really love that we got to see this duel with the Blade of Talzin, and it's a different type of duel here, and not lightsaber on lightsaber. I kind of thought last week, I thought, oh, well, Baylan and Ahsoka might fight again, blah blah blah. But we'll get to all that later. But I thought this duel was awesome. There's that wide shot where they're really going at it back and forth, and it looked great. I thought they might have like done some like sped up here and there, because it looked a little more hyper, if you will, in some sense, or a little more unrealistic, but still very cool, and I thought aesthetically pleasing. I don't know, where does this battle rank for you, Brandon, of all the battles in the show that we've had so far?
I feel like it was the like best choreographed fight that we've seen in this show. I thought it was really well done. I even had that thought while it was happening. I was like, all those nerds complaining about the choreography, getting it killer. I'm like, this is great. Shut up. So I thought,
also getting it killer. Like, it was
that would have hurt. It would have hurt.
I mean, come on. He's not the only guy in the world that could do sword.
You're right. He's not. He's just the best. You're right. He's not. He's just the best that Star Wars has ever had. So why not use him? Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I agree with you, Brandon. I agree. I think this was the most dynamic fight we've had in the series. I was just thinking before you brought this up, we've had a lot of lightsaber fights in this series.
We have.
Dope.
Yeah, that's fun. And then, like they said as much before the series began. I was like, okay, cool, and you better bring it. And I think they pretty much delivered on the lightsaber duel portion of this show. I will say, I think this duel has the best energy in a sense for me, but I think the best choreography, which I would still lean towards Baylan Ahsoka on Cetos. That to me, with them exchanging stances and what, like the kind of the swordsmanship, if you will, between them. I love that stuff as much as I love the energy that was between Elsbeth and Ahsoka on this platform. Kevin, where do you rank this duel?
I like it because it wasn't normal like lightsaber on lightsaber duel. You know, that's why I wasn't on your show last week, or on our show last week, but I didn't have any problem with Ezra not having a lightsaber. Like, it's all about switching it up and like changing things and trying to make things look creative and new and fresh. And so I thought that Force Fu was cool, you know, and I thought that this fight. I mean, look, the actress who plays Morgan Ellsworth, Ellsworth. It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday. But if you look her up, her godfather was Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
her dad was a mentee under Bruce Lee. So like, she got to showcase her skills, and I thought that she really shined. And I thought that duel was way better than the other action sequences throughout the episode. So I loved it.
Were you, Kevin? Were you disappointed that Ezra got a lightsaber? That we didn't see more Avatar: The Last?
I thought once you use the lightsaber, even Ahsoka says it, like, being a Jedi isn't about using your lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he would have had it on the hilt a couple times and done his other stuff, right? Like, he kind of completely abandoned that fighting style for, I get it. It's like
until
riding
he
a
got
bike.
disarmed by the Death Trooper, then he kind of...
Yeah, then he kind of engages in that a little bit. But
The double
yeah,
Death
I mean,
Trooper.
I like I said, I love I'll say this. I'm gonna be honest. I love the conversation between Hu Yang and Ezra during the whole part about the lightsaber, but the actual moment of him turning on a lightsaber after 7 years, it felt like he was just in the body shop, like testing it out, like, oh, cool.
Right.
Instead of like really like understanding, like he was about to turn it on, and it's Kayla, it's Kanan's color, blue, and that powerful moment, and I thought it wasn't powerful as a moment. The turn on part, right? So
Sure.
Later on, or maybe he doesn't turn it on. He's like, he doesn't have the heart to turn it on, and then he has to finally do it at some point. But again, I want to. It's at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to do fan fiction that I could have done it better. I am not like a certain other YouTuber sensation in the universe, in our circle, not circle, but in our whatever Star Wars.
You tell Alex how it is.
Not Alex. I love Alex. But I'm not trying to pretend like I can do it better. We all have our ideas in our heads and stuff like that. But everything about Ezra I loved. I thought it was on point again, and I wasn't here last week. People complaining about his humor, like, why is he humor? Like, why is he so funny? He was funny on the show, and they kept it. They kept it true where he intimidated an officer on this show. So I love that.
Yeah, they give the little nod to. I like that with the trooper. It's a great way to harken back to his character from the animation, the animated show Rebels, but also like making it not super animated. Like, it's just like, everything's all good. Kind of a little Han Solo-y, that's a la Death Star, that type of thing. So I like that too. But let's get to this moment with Sabine finally using the Force. I think we've all been waiting for this moment since it was really talked about in the beginning of the series.
Or dreading this moment.
Sure. Sean, I want to start with you. Kind of knew this was going to happen. Did they execute it well? How'd you feel how they went about it?
We're talking specifically about the push-pull thing, right?
All of it. All of Sabine using the Force finally.
I'm going to be honest. I don't remember the first time she used the Force.
When she was getting choked by the Death Trooper.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, she grabs the lightsaber. Yeah, I thought that was appropriate, right? Like, that felt like an appropriate time for it to happen. I would rather talk more about the throwing Ezra across. Because to me, that felt like the scene where it's like, not only can she use the Force, but it's this thing that she's seen. She's now falling into what she knows of Jedi, right? Mm-hmm. Because how many times has she seen that done between Kanan and Ezra to the point where it was a running, it's like a fastball special almost for them. Yeah. So I really liked that. The grabbing the lightsaber was fine. It worked. It was. There's no better way to do that, right? I guess.
Sean, I have a question for you.
Yeah, hey.
Because you are the Mandalorian. You are the Mandalorian expert of our.
Yeah, I like those guys.
Quartet. Do you like how they really pushed aside her Mandalorian? Like, aside from the first episode or whatever, where they make a big deal about her putting the armor on, you really don't hear anything. And aside from Purge with their parents, but it's so focused on her becoming a Jedi. Are you kind of bummed that they kind of are like peeling away?
No.
You think it was like an edict from like Disney saying like, we already have a Mandalorian star. Let's try to veer her off the course.
No, because I think she's choreographed to represent her Mandalorian tendencies. A lot of what she's doing, where she'll purposely block with her.
It's true. With
her van braces, with her helmet. She's using the armor in a way a Mandalorian would, in the way that Din or Boba do in Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, and the way that Bo-Katan does. So I think that enough is that enough gives me that, right? It's every time she does that, which I see, she does it a lot in this episode especially, because I think ultimately if we've got Bo-Katan and Din concerned about being Mandalorian, we need Boba Fett and Sabine to do other things so that they're just not Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian number 2.
Oh,
right?
Sure, yeah.
So,
and
as to whether it's an edict from Disney, it very well could be, or
and
from
I feel like
or something.
in moments where she can't use the Force, she uses her like gadgets, like her wrist rockets and flamethrower and stuff, and her little like thingy. I don't know what that's called. You know what I'm talking about? The
wire rip.
Yeah.
The golden lasso. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It is called wheel.
That thing, yeah. So I think she's definitely embracing the fact. And then even Ahsoka during the battle says, "All right, put down the lightsaber and use your blasters."
Sabine blasters. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now I need you to be a Mandalorian, Sabine. Start shooting.
Right. Brandon, talk about this Sabine using the Force moment. We've been building up to it. Did it live up to the hype for you? Did it, or was it? I don't know. What do you think about it?
I feel like I'm in the middle. Like I was expecting her to like pull her lightsaber towards her. I think I like predicted something similar like earlier this season. Like that would be the first time that we see it. Mm-hmm. And then like it did kind of go from like 0 to 100 real quick. But like I said earlier, I loved the moment where she pushed Ezra, because like part of me didn't really expect it to happen. So when it did happen, I was like, whoa. I thought that was just really cool. We could debate when the first time she used the Force was, because when they're getting the hellfire on them and they're trying to open the door, Ahsoka's like, Sabine, help out. And she's like, I don't know how to use the freaking Force, dude. But she tries, and maybe she did help nudge the door a little bit. I don't know. Maybe. Who's to say?
Well, there's also a sense that Ahsoka doing that, it becomes less conscious because she's not relying on herself to do it. Mm-hmm. It's more of part of being part of something bigger. I want to just we're talking about the blasters, Kevin. You made me think. I want Sabine to go full Equilibrium, John Wick, Gun Fu. Sort of Jedi.
That would
Equilibrium. Be I love it. I love it.
One of the few, for a guy who hasn't seen a lot of movies, seeing that movie is an interesting choice.
Honestly, John Wick is pretty close to a Mandalorian if you think about it. I mean, his jacket's kind of can block bullets, and I mean, it's pretty close.
I really like the concept that she could have been a Jedi that wasn't proficient in the Force, right? Like we don't know what Chirrut Emwe is all about, right? Like, did he have the Force, or was he just a believer? You know what I mean? Like, maybe kind of riding on that. I kind of like that idea of it. But I didn't hate it. I'm glad, because it's cool. She's now part of that lineage of, going back, like Yoda, Dooku, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. Let me get there. Anakin, Ahsoka. That's pretty dope.
It is pretty cool. I will say, I think the moment fell a little flat for me. I like that she can use the Force that way. I'm with you, Brandon. I think it was like 0 to 100 when she's like, hey Ezra, go do the jumpy thing that you do with Kanan a lot. I'll do it too. And even though I just started pulling things,
Frank,
go ahead. What's up?
You should know better.
What do you mean?
Size matters not.
True.
One action with the Force is the same as any other action with the Force. You're just letting your mind and your inference of size dictate what you can.
Yeah, but did Sabine learn that in like 10 minutes? Did Sabine move a lightsaber
Thanks,
and then learn it 10 minutes later? That overall story.
I agree. It is a little zero. It is a 100% 0 to 60, right?
But it's not Mary Sue style though. Let's forget we had 7 episodes of her failing as fucking failing. So I don't believe it was the Mary Sue. I just think it's like all right, you moved a lightsaber. That's good. You've taken your first step into a larger world. Let's calm down. But then again, look, Luke, how about this? Now that I think about it, it's just coming to me. Luke first starts with the blast shield down, blocks a couple of Sable things, right? He does no more training the rest of the movie, right? Basically. And what does Obi-Wan say? Turn off the targeting computer. The fate of millions of people, right? Or at least the fate of all these people, the rebellion, is going to rest on this kid that all he proved in the Millennium Falcon is that he blocked 3, right? So I think in the middle of this sentence, I just kind of convinced myself that it is okay that she could graduate to that because out of times of duress or stress, that's when you kind of rally and you're able to do it.
I think... I think you that kind of works for me too as well, Kevin. I will say, I think, what was I talking this with Christian? I think earlier today. I think or maybe it was did someone else said this in a review I think I watched, saying it would have been nice, maybe it was Alex I think actually, maybe it would be nice if like Ezra was like, Sabine, throw me, you know, like kind of like him placing trust in Sabine,
like
and,
Gimli.
Toss me.
Don't tell me else.
Nobody trusts a printer.
I think that could have worked as well, and I would have liked that moment. I would have liked the moment a little bit. It would have been more powerful for me, but I still like the fact that I'm like, hell yeah, Sabine can use the Force. She's tapped in, you know, and so I think that's pretty cool for the Force in Star Wars going forward at large. So,
but where are they during the sequel trilogy? That's the problem when you write someone in our Discord. I want to give him a shout out because when Hannah made that funny joke about Luke, someone wrote like, yeah, that's the problem with doing what do they call them? Not sequel trilogy or prequel, but like intermediate trilogy, whatever.
Intermediate-quels.
Yeah, like you have to adhere to everything, but like no one's around later, right? And I don't think it's going to be able to be written that way anymore. But I did like one of you guys, was it, that had come up with the theory that like, oh, maybe they get somehow sucked into that universe and they're all stuck there, kind of. But see, they already did that now with Ahsoka and all them. But basically, at the end of whatever Filoni movie, somehow, you know, Ezra, Ahsoka, everybody gets sucked into that other galaxy, and they have to wait another 30 years for the next migration of whales. And then when that happens, they can come back to this right in time for the Rey trilogy, right? Or the Rey movies.
Yeah.
So.
The trilogy, if you will.
I think they're all dead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
They're dead? You think they're all dead?
I think maybe Sabine's dead. Alive. Maybe she's like, hey, thank God I didn't go to Luke's temple. Dodged a bullet there.
Whew. You know,
yeah, be like, you know
what?
I took out Thrawn. This whole Kylo Ren Snoke thing sounds an awful lot like a Luke problem to me.
I think they all go hang out with Cal Kestis on whatever that planet's called.
Them and Tech, they just all riot race together. It's a big laugh.
Yeah, let's talk about how this whole episode wrapped up, the series wrapped up, because you know there's a lot of I still have a lot of questions. I still have a lot of questions, and I'm okay with having some questions here and there when a season of a show ends. That's always fun.
Rapid fire them at us, Frank. What are your questions?
So just like
I have the answers for you too. So just
we got you.
Oh, you have all the answers. Baylan, like, yo, bro, like, come on, can we walk a little faster? Can we get to the? Are we actually gonna do the Mortis thing or what?
Ahsoka took his horsey, so he had to walk.
The Knights of Shin, like, what's going like?
To answer your question about
those guys those Red Raiders are really, that's like becoming the leader of a bunch of 4-year-olds or something, like 4-year-old warriors, like, oh yay,
child warriors.
That's like waking up. You know what that's like? It's like waking up in the desert and joining a Tusken Raider clan. How dumb, you know?
Like a bastard.
We've seen this already. That was my thought on that. As far as Frank, to answer your question about Baylan, I think we just need to call Baylan Daddy now.
Sure.
Father, so we got to call him that. I don't make the rules. It's an internal memo from Lucasfilm.
I think that the Baylan stuff will get answered. Like, they didn't plan on him passing away, obviously.
No. Right.
And I think that they have the easiest way to write it. Whatever that beacon on the mountain in the distance, he's going to go there and he's going to get transformed. And Denzel Washington's going to come back and play Baylan for all we know. And he'll be able to say, oh, I am Baylan, but reborn and whatever. And how they're going to do the Avalon thing or whatever.
Yay.
So I do want to say to all of our fans, if you really enjoyed the series, and thoughts on the finale notwithstanding, find the Ray Stevenson interview from Celebration. It's great. To see the guy so in love with his part and his role in Star Wars, it's just a good capper to end the season and just kind of pay your respects to him. He's going to be very much missed, and more because of his enthusiasm. In fact, everybody on Ahsoka, like, Ahsoka herself was like from a retweet. She was a fan of Clone Wars. Someone said, oh, you'd make a great Ahsoka, and she retweeted it. And that, she probably had to audition, but she got the part. Like, a lot of these people that involved in this show, whether you like the finale or not, really poured everything into it, and they loved it. And So I think with Ray Stevenson, I think it will be something tied into Mortis and maybe even the mother, Abeloth or whatever. I like that theory. I just discovered it today, actually.
Oh boy. You didn't hear about us talking about it the last week? Oh, that's right. You weren't here.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't tune in. I
see
usually do.
at least 3 brand new YouTube videos about it every single day on my feed.
I mean, I've been saying it since episode 1.
That's right. That's right. It was one of the few to go out on that ledge with Sean, and he,
I don't know how many YouTube videos I've seen where it's like confirmed Abeloth is calling, and I'm like, there is nothing confirmed about
I think
any of this.
I think I make a pretty convincing argument for it last week. Not that again I stand by the theory, but
is it as convincing as your argument that the best 8 minutes of Star Wars are in Attack of the Clones?
No, but it's as convincing about my argument of the March of the Trade Federation.
Yes, you changed my headcanon. I fucking love you for that. Still to this day,
Dexter's Diner is the best 8 minutes.
those are some
Star Wars
callbacks to earlier episodes, fellas.
Yeah, wow,
girls and ladies, gentlemen.
Before the dog.
Yeah, I think the series wraps up fine. I had some people complain about like, oh, where'd Ezra get that shuttle? Who cares? You know.
I mean, that was clearly Balin's and Shin's shuttle that when they landed on the Star Destroyer. That's what
right.
I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was like, that's his old shuttle. And they're like, and so when he lands on home one, they're like, oh god, this shuttle again? Who's on it? You know,
these guys again.
We talked to Ezra about he, you know, to quote Ra's al Ghul, I think he took theatricality a little too far.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say, warm your torso, your arms will warm themselves.
Which, by the way, there's an article about that. That's false. That's not true. Don't do that.
Brandon's been giving out false information for years.
Like, take your helmet off. You had the whole trip. Why are you wearing this stormtrooper helmet?
Yeah, that was my first thought. Was man, this kid's had his helmet on the whole time. Like
he's flying.
Probably stinks.
Yeah, go ahead.
When, like, how often are those stormtroopers showering? You know.
Yeah,
there's a dead guy in there. Like a zombie was wearing that.
No, it was an alive guy. They're not all dead.
Oh, that's right. On the ship.
But there's a website
guy that hasn't
translates
showered in 10
chopper.
years.
Chopper is actually words that are muffled, and someone decodes it. I'm curious to see what Chopper says to Ezra when he comes up. You know, probably like, take your helmet off. You're about to get your head blown off, you idiot.
Right.
And then I liked how everyone else in the room lowers their weapons when he takes it off. Like, the only person that should be like, oh, Ezra, is Hera. But they all lower their weapons seeing this young kid with a beard. Like, he could still be a stormtrooper that had a beard.
No, they're like the New York Yankees. They have a very strict facial hair policy.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I was like, was it kind of an Ezra thing to do? Like, sort of, I guess. But I was just like, bruh, like if you wanted to, in a cinematic sense, disguise him coming down the ramp, you could have just added way more smoke to that ramp, and then him come out and the reveal from the smoke it's Ezra. Hey, what's up, Hera? And then I think we were talking about it last night with Christian about where's the hug. I didn't even think about it in the moment. Like, they didn't even hug. I was like, dang, yeah.
I agree. The like. I mean, it didn't like take me out totally, but like they're starting to walk towards each other and then they wipe. Like, did someone freaking forget? Like, oh no, we wipe on the hug, then you wipe. Like, you know, I just think it's not as agreed. Like the worst one still, and it bothers me to this day. And I need a Frank cut to fix it, but I don't think you can do it.
Yeah,
is Chewie not hugging Leia at the end of Force Awakens? Like, and even the filmmaker JJ himself said that. I think. Future friend of the show. I think he even says with regret that, like, how did that slip by?
Yeah, it's interesting how some of that stuff. Hera. Yeah. All right, so let's finish wrapping up here
when you hug her, does her tentacles like wrap around the back? That would be weird.
No, she's got little short tentacles, like
no, the short ones.
Yeah.
So they just tickle your ear. They tickle your ear.
I hope Chopper said, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?"
Yeah, that'd be funny. That would be funny.
I'm telling you, I forget who does it on YouTube, but they do it. They great job. They some of the funny lines that he says on that ship when he's throwing the tracker on that ship earlier in the season.
Yeah,
it's really funny. Like, you've been going through my stuff, Mom. Like, and when you hear it, he's literally saying that. And apparently, they did it throughout all of Rebels too. He's decoded a lot of the Rebels lines. Like,
he decoded a lot of Rebels
into the droid and stuff. Yeah, it's really neat.
Cool. So we're back on Peridia finally, or not finally, but lastly. And Sabine's like, I kind of feel something out there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, first of all, they also have this talk about, it's time to move on. we are where we need to be. I'm not really sure what to make of all that, to be honest. That's just me. I'm like, yeah, she saw Morai, and like maybe that's her signal of like, okay, cool, bird showed up.
I think that's just dialogue, right? I almost felt like that's just like we need to have them say something.
Quick, have them say this.
Have Ahsoka say something Jedi-like,
right?
Like,
I think it was like also like reflect like part of like what she learned from her lesson with Anakin was like hey, chill, everything's gonna be fine, hey, we're alive, isn't that neat,
right. And so we end the series with a shot on Force Ghost Anakin.
Season, not series. I feel like they
sure,
already
right. Season finale, Force Ghost Anakin. I felt like me and like a bunch of other people saw this could be probably the next or the last sighting, of Anakin. Cool, right? Yeah, cool.
Great.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Right? End credits.
Wow. That's what I did when I saw him. I was like, well,
roll credits.
Roll credits.
I will say, and I might be on an island on this, that this needs to be. I want him to be back for a Clone Wars series or movie. That would be great. De-age him. But his story with Ahsoka, I think Brandon's right in a certain sense. Time to get back to your son now. But I think him looking at Ahsoka walking away is beautiful, because it's kind of mirroring when she walked away from him in Clone Wars, that first shot behind the back. Mm-hmm. But to be like, he has that smile. I think he was like, okay, I came back for her when she needed me in the World Between Worlds and that whole sequence. She lost her way. I know she was feeling guilt about what the atrocities that I did. Hopefully I freed her of that guilt. And then seeing that how she's become in this situation where it is kind of dire for our heroes right now, but she's still calm and collected and no longer hanging on to that guilt. She's moved on. And I think Anakin being there as a Force ghost with that smile is like, okay, I don't need to appear to her anymore. And I don't think that's going to happen, but because I think butts and seats, they want more Hayden now. But I think that it would be a fitting end to the Anakin Force Ghost until we get that. We got to see that long-awaited scene between Luke and Anakin. That'll be so cool.
I think we need a scene of Luke and Anakin for sure. There is one in
Shadow of the Sith.
Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. Read it. I heard.
I'm going to give a controversial opinion on that. I don't think Luke needs Anakin. I think Ahsoka needs Anakin more than Luke does.
Still? Or do you think now at the end of this season?
Yeah, especially because Luke. Well, because I think that it is the duty of these Force ghosts. I do think they have a job to do, right? Like I don't think they're, just there because we have nothing better to do. We may as well become blue people and go hang out with our old Padawans. Luke has Yoda and Obi-Wan, let Ahsoka get Anakin, Luke's
really
nice. I do want. I'm not saying I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't want that scene.
You just let him play catch one.
Hey, Dad.
I'm not saying I don't want that scene, but I also don't think it's a matter of they can only appear to one or the other, right? I think that Luke and Ahsoka both are the shepherds of the future of the Jedi Order. Now we know what happens with Luke in that sense, but
well, maybe if Anakin popped up and was a father figure to Luke wouldn't have been such a bitch on Octave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I heard people I heard people complain like, oh, it should have been Anakin in The Last Jedi, not Yoda as a Force ghost. I was like, but Yoda was the one that trained Luke. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Luke and Vader's
Anakin
entire relationship was just
message.
trying to kill each other.
Oh, absolutely could not. Yeah, he could not. Because he's killed children. So
hopefully they had some space wine and or a cigar and talk things over and was like, hey, sorry about all that, torturing your sister and killing your sister's planet and chopping your hand off. But
torturing your sister's boyfriend.
That's right.
He seems like a nice guy.
I just think that's the dream match. We've had him communicate. We got to see him in Obi-Wan again. We got to see now Ahsoka, which is the dream. That's great. And just a scene. And I'm wanting to read that Shadows of the Sith book anyway. I think I have it. I just never got to it. So I hear it's a very good scene. Mm-hmm. So that
I just re-listened to it today actually. So
could you tell me? Will you send me what chapter it is?
13.
No, jump to it. 13.
Yeah.
Wow, you knew that offhand so quickly.
Yeah, because I wasn't to it today.
If you didn't know, Frank has guys. If you have questions about what chapter things are in Star Wars books, Frank has them all memorized.
Also, always say chapter 13. Just say chapter 13.
And page 394.
Right.
Hey, we've got a whole bunch of questions today.
Oh man.
Should we start with?
I feel like it's a joke.
Should we start with the one from IT Nama?
Start it off, Sean, if you got it.
All right. So IT Nama wants to know: do you think it's possible Ahsoka was fighting on Mandalore during the events of the original trilogy? I think we know the answer to this one.
Do we?
I think that because I think that what is implied from Rebels is that she is taking care of Lothal. Where Ezra can't, she's taking care of Lothal, I think is what is implied by Rebels.
Who needs to take care of Lothal? Nothing to take care of on Lothal.
Obi-Wan had to take care of Luke and the future hopes of the galaxy, but he still left to go track down a little, Leia.
I mean, I get it. As a cat dad, she had to feed Ezra's cats for all those years after Ezra went missing.
So that's what they say, that they say she was on Lothal, huh?
They imply, they don't outright say. I also think that Ezra has a strict helmet shining routine. He's got to shine all his helmets, But that's my impression. But I don't know that it's possible.
Feeding the cat. That's my answer.
The next question is from Frank. Help me out here.
That's it, Sean.
Oh, the next question is from me. Do you feel at the end of this series, Ahsoka's a Jedi again? Do you think that through the events of the series, she's become I get that's the feeling I get at the conclusion of this, that she's a Jedi again. As much as she said I am no Jedi and that she was something else, I feel like by the end of this series,
I think she's always been on the edge of.
She's a citizen.
Being a
not anymore. She's in a different galaxy. She's a migrant now. She's not a citizen.
She was participating in Jedi edging. That's what you're saying, Frank.
I'm just saying, like, she's hanging around with Hu Yang. She flies a T6. She still has Anakin's old recording.
It's Hu Yang's T6.
I guess that's true. But I mean, she's and. And I think the episode with Anakin, finally was like, either, commit or get off the pot. Like, come on, let's just go. And I think, she really, and then also just kind of reforging that relationship with Sabine, despite however you wanted to say that was handled, again, just being like, I'm going to be there as your master and you're my apprentice, and reforging that relationship, who else does that? Like, in that manner, I think it's a very much a Jedi relationship, master and apprentice type of relationship. So yeah, I definitely think she is a Jedi, and I always kind of really thought of her as a Jedi anyway, because she just felt much more aligned, despite how she feels about the Order. He's very much in a Balin way of like, I love the I'm more in love with the idea, not of what they became. And I think Ahsoka falls into that line. And so, am I saying Balin is a Jedi? No, because I think he's so disillusioned.
You think he's a dark Jedi?
You might say, Sean. You might say
Gray Jedi.
Might I?
Kevin, come on. Anyone else? Anyone else? No. Okay.
He's an orange Jedi.
He's he's a Orange Julius Jedi. Yeah.
Orange glad I'm no longer a Jedi.
Orange Julius, good.
Orange Jedi. Orange Julius sounds good right now. Do you think?
I'll pose a question before we wrap up here to everybody. So, Frank and I talked about this. I'd like two questions, two parts. One, what is your ranking of the series overall out of 10? And then where does it line up in your overall series rankings?
Gotcha. I don't have an out of 10 for you, but I will say this is my number 2 series.
Okay.
Behind Andor.
Okay.
Behind Andor and just in front of Mandalorian.
Season 1 or 2? 3?
But that's what Book of Boba Fett is the very top, right? That's like, yeah. I like
Book of Boba Fett more than most, I think.
Me too. I mean, he wrote a freaking Rancor.
I gotta take a call. I'll be right back.
Okay. Brandon, answer the question.
I might be with Sean. I feel like Andor and then Ahsoka, maybe. Yeah. Obi-Wan I do like too, but yeah.
It's crazy that Obi-Wan isn't, and I'm not saying it's because it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of it's not good. It's just frustrating
Good
that
stuff in it,
Obi-Wan
man.
should be number one on everyone's list. They had so much to work with and such drama and stuff. And again, it's tops for me, even though I admit its many faults. But it should be on everybody's number one, and how they flub the ball at the end zone kind of stuff. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but there is really good stuff in it. And yeah,
Have you seen
Andor.
the movie? You gotta see the movie.
No, not yet. You haven't given me enough wings yet, guy. I think Andor might be one of my favorite shows of all time. But Ahsoka, watching it, I felt like the fantasy aspect, like it felt like I was like in like the best way possible. It's like I felt like I was watching like an 80s like ILM Lucasfilm, movie. I'm like, it's got all the fantasy elements, the little creatures, the focus on like the importance of like life and friendship and all this other stuff. It just like had all those like Star Wars-y fantasy vibes that I was looking for, where like Andor is like the more like dramatic storytelling, and this is just the more like it's fun to be a kid again storytelling. So I really appreciated that, even though it does end on a huge like cliffhanger that like so many people like seem to be complaining about. It's like, oh, we don't know what happens to Balin, this is the worst show ever. And I'm like, thank God YouTube and Twitter didn't exist when like Lost season 1 came out. Could you imagine? Like, we don't know what's in the hatch, this is the worst storytelling I've ever seen. It's like, just wait for season 2, bro. God damn.
Yeah.
You'll find out.
In terms of,
I did change my number though from last night to today, sitting on it. Like
Okay.
I feel like 7 was too low for the series overall. I would say it's kind of like up there, like an 8 along with you, or like a 7.5 if I'm going to split. Kind of be like what Christian ranked.
yeah. I still keep it at the whole series an 8. In terms of where I rank it, I think, like I said, like Mando season 2 and this season of Ahsoka, I had such a fun time watching those seasons of those two shows. I think I might give Ahsoka the slight edge as my favorite series right now, just because it tackles a lot of kind of like what Brandon you were talking about. Just it gives you really like everything that Star Wars does, and especially really delving into the fantasy aspect, which we haven't really done too much of, even with the movies. I mean, a little bit, but the way they're going about it in this series, they didn't really. They did some stuff with Night Sisters and the Force and all that stuff, and setting up a potential Mortis type of arc for Balin. That remains to be seen. So I like that's what Ahsoka did, along with the whole relationship with Ahsoka and Sabine, trying to find Ezra, Thrawn. It just had a lot of great stuff that I loved. Yes, from Rebels, from previous shows and Clone Wars and stuff, and brought to live action. And I think for that, it gives a little bit of a leg up over Mandalorian. I mean, that might be a little bit unfair because Mandalorian's pretty much quote unquote brand new material. So yeah, I think I'd put Ahsoka at the top, just narrowly edging out Mando season 2. And then I think I also said this on to Council, I can't even include Andor in the rankings of these shows because it does a completely different thing. I put it over here in a different column all by itself because it is excellent television. It's excellent Star Wars, but it just does a different type of thing that I can't even begin to compare it to Ahsoka or Mandalorian or Boba Fett or Obi-Wan. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. And so, because I think Andor is so unique. It's the first of its kind, really, of a Star Wars show. So, all that aside, loved Ahsoka. I don't know if we're going to get Sean back here to close out the show because I think we're ready to close up shop here. But I did want to say one last thing about the show or the series this season. Kevin Kiner and the music. I loved every single piece of music that we heard. I listened to the first half of the scores that were released. I listen to those all the time now when I'm doing stuff, editing and blah blah blah. Love that score. The man is a genius. I loved all the music in the finale. It was great. Any final words as we begin to close out here?
No, Kevin Kiner's score was fantastic.
And I need any new iteration of the Force theme I always geek out about. So he gave us a couple of those. One when Jason was listening through the Force in the ocean during the World Between World episodes, and this one when he's about to jump, when Ezra's about to jump.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. Good point.
And I only knew it because we had it kind of low, and I think Kira was talking to it some, but the subtitle said Force theme plays.
Oh damn. Okay. There you go. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up here for this week. I don't know if Sean's going to give up that call or not, but that's okay. Before we head out again, just if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, we'd love it if you would leave a like, a comment on this. What do you got, Kev? What are you doing? Oh, you're just. I thought you were.
I'm trying to do the animation.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my train of thought. But anyways, you could I got a new train of thought on our socials that they have formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Brandon's favorite platform, Threads.
Hey, we got some subs too. We're 20 away from 500, which is kind of a neat.
Yeah, that's the little goal we got going on right now, trying to hit 500 subscribers.
If you're the 500th subscriber, Brandon will get a tattoo of you on his lower back. That's what he said.
That's what he said. That's true. Yeah. And I think next week we'll do a little bit more of a overall review of the series, what we like, dislike, what we think is going to happen in season 2 and 4 and beyond, and all the other fun stuff, and maybe some other random topics that
I thought we were talking too many redemptions in Star Wars, or is that?
You know what? Tune in next week to see if we talk about Star Wars. Too many redemptions. Is that a good or bad thing?
I still have the note on my phone, where we were first discussing it, and I wrote down Star Wars Too Many Redemptions. And you remember we were at dinner or something, and you were like, I don't think there's that many. And then I looked up. Remember, there was 76.
There's a wiki list. Yeah. We may or may not get into that next week. Tune in next week to find out. But until next time, we will see y'all later.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.